The official number from the CRPF, it is still 37.
This is a stinging slap in the face, worse than Odi.
अभी रेस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहा मनन.
अच्छा,
From the CRPF, it is still 37.
This is a stinging slap in the face, worse than Odi. The people of this country want revenge.
Manan, welcome to this discussion. Viewers, you are also most heartily welcome to discussion which takes place on the subject of Pulwama to Balakot, India Avenging its Martyr, the book. And this book is written by Navy veteran Manan Bhatt. And Manan Bhatt is special mention to you for being so lucid, for being so authentic, and yet calling your book a fictional book. The intense yet gripping account reveals for the first time in a barely disguised fictional format how the Jaish-e-Mohammed conceived of and executed the ghastly Pulwama attack. The cataclysmic blast ripped through the CRPF convoy, instantly dismembering 40 brave hearts, triggering an unprecedented human tragedy and inviting a most devastating response from the nation, namely the Balakot airstrike and its ensuing consequences. In a space of 12 days in February 2019, the world saw a new India, not afraid to hunt down its tormentors, hiding in any country. Author Manan Bhatt is Indian Navy veteran, takes you through every single detail of the two historical events which have changed the Indian history for good. Maybe history will evaluate these events in different light, and maybe some glory, some missed facts will also reveal about what was Balakot and how Pulbama happens. But the Pulwama terror attack and its subsequent Balakot airstrike is a very gripping, riveting, yet sensitively told account. This YouTube discussion comes to you through International Council for Industrial Security and Safety Management, where we welcome all the security and safety professionals world over from diverse background and encourage them to interact freely for asking the questions, reply them, and by sharing their knowledge and experience. Manan, many viewers would be wondering what Navy veteran has got to do to writing down a book which deals with two diverse organizations which are entirely different than Indian Navy. You wrote about CRPF, you wrote about Indian Air Force. How you got the insight and what motivated you to write this book?
Thank you, Sir Jahin. First of all, I thank Captain Sir and the ICISS for this opportunity to speak, to talk, to express myself about my book, Balakot Airstrike: How India Avenged Pulwama. So it is an interesting story. Basically, I started writing op-eds, columns in local newspapers in Gujarat in the year 2015, and it began as a small article on the Hanuman Thappa incident, which was incidentally a army soldier. So this is how I began, and after that, my editor one day asked me to write about Kargil. He said, you were part of Operation Talwar, which was the naval operations during Kargil. And I started writing about the Kargil war, and started researching about it rather. So this is how my connections after my retirement and during my civil life began with the armed forces. I got to know the army a lot during my 2 years research on the Kargil war. I learned how the operations occurred at those heights in Kargil. I got to interview Brigadier Kushal Thakur sir. Incidentally, Brigadier Kushal sir just got a ticket for Mandi Vidhan Sabha. So I got to interview two of the PVCs from Kargil war, that is Sanjay Kumar sir and Yogendra Singh Yadav sir. I got to interview quite a few ground soldiers who some of them received medals, some of them did not. I got to interview commanding officers of the units who fought in Kargil. I interviewed Colonel Ravindranath. Then my research went down to interview for Air Force operations, and a senior of mine from Indian Air Force, Sergeant Jayant Patel. He was there during Kargil, and he was part of the Operation Safed Sagar. So he basically introduced me to the ways of Indian Air Force operations during a war or during a conflict. And as I said earlier, that I have already written a book on Kargil that is that is also a work of research, Kargil Yuddha. The name of the book is Kargil Yuddha. So I had a prima facie knowledge. I had a good enough knowledge for how the air operations occurred in Kargil war. When the trustedly Pulwama attack happened, beforehand we had a Uri and the surgical strikes. The surgical strike operation in the backdrop of Pathankot and Uri attacks was a game-changing operation, which saw Indian Army crossing the border and going across the LOC, crossing the LOC rather, and going across and hitting targets deep inside. So I as a writer, as an author, as a columnist, I had already worked on, and I had already written a weekly column on the surgical strikes, which was known to be return of the surgical strikes. I had already done research on the surgical strikes. When Pulwama happened, and I got to know about the tragedy, and there were sting of interviews, there were sting of live broadcast on television, live television, national television. The whole discussion was very emotional for me. The plight of Pulwama martyrs had me touched, and I thought that it was my calling, that I must start writing about them. I must start to explore their story. What happened with Pulwama was that it was a very saddening thing, but there are so many experts told me that as we saw that there were no survivors from the Pulwama blast. 39 of the soldiers who were on board the bus and the one who was on the street, they got killed. So how would you go and find a story out of it where there are no survivors from the terror attack. I told them, I told my friends, I told my superiors, I told my seniors that, sir, in the sense of time, these martyrs, our fallen heroes, they have left their marks. It is for me to go and find them. It is for me. I took it upon myself. The CRPF soldiers, be it the army soldiers, be it the Air Force airmen or the officers, they are my brothers in arms. And so it is my duty to explore their lives. It is my duty to tell their stories to the people of India. It is the birthright of our people of India to know about them. I was very saddened when somebody said after surgical strike, after the Pathankot attack, that the Defense Security Corps people were ragtag. Were they? No. So even during Pulwama, even after Pulwama, there were questions asked. Is it an insider job? How? I mean, a terror attack which is as crystal clear as it is done by Jaish-e-Mohammed. There are people who are whitewashing things and saying that it is an insider job. I had to do research. I went around. Yes,
Manan, you prepared well for this book. Your research work shows when someone reads your book. Your hard work is evident here. And I know, and you know, and readers of this book will know that every fact, every information you picked up from public forum, open source. Nothing is secret here, nothing is confidential. But with all the information so easily available, weaving a big, storyline fit to be a novel, yet full of hard facts, verifiable facts. This book is still categorized as fictional book. And this is the paradox of this book, that beside storyline that you have mentioned about the family background and what were the domestic problems and situations at CRPF personnel, everything is making readers very interested. And therein you weave in the hard facts. All these were available through internet, or you had to go to few locations and talk to people and ascertain the facts? What was the process?
Thank you for this question, Captain Sir. I went on ground and I interviewed people. Every single individual. Let me say it very categorically, because the book has air operations, has mentions of has a long part of book is about air operations, around 200, more than 200 pages, and these operations are still classified. So one has to there has to be a line that has to be drawn, and no national secret should leak out. So it was my primary concern. As far as Pulwama is concerned, every name is true. Every name of the soldier is true. Nasir Ahmed was the first person who got killed when the Pulwama fanatic Adil Ahmed Dar hit that bus and pushed the button of that bomb. Every single name is true. It is a paradox of life that a person from the same religion who was a religious fanatic killed a patriot from the same religion who was a true patriot, who was a true nationalist and doing his duty. So when I went about researching for Pulwama, it all began, as I said, it all began with research on the bus, and it was said that there is nothing left out of the bus. But there were videos, there were telephone records with the families, which were from the last moments of the bus. So it was a surprise for me. It was a blessing. I think it was a calling. It was a higher calling for me, that I was able to actually recreate the sitting arrangements of the bus. It was the time that I understood while I was meeting the family, and I came across a video from a slain Jawan's wife, that actually showed the entire sitting arrangements from the bus. So that was the point that I realized that there is a higher calling. There is somebody sitting up there wants me to tell their stories to the people of India. This CRPF Jawans, they deserve their place in India's history, India's war history. They did not die a sorry death. They went there to maintain peace in the region, and they were killed because the extremists, the proxy, the Pak proxies and the enemy, they didn't want peace to prevail. It has to be told, and I was able to realize it that out of the 39 Jawans, I have to pick somebody. I have to pick a team from whose eyes I will be able to tell this story. So these are the 5 people: the bus driver Jaimal Singh, the bus commander Head Constable Nasir Ahmed. These are two true people. They were actually there. And this is their story. I was able to recreate the entire the last journey of the bus from the CRPF, and it is I feel that I am truly blessed that it came down upon me to tell the story to the people of India. Sir.
Manan, the day I came to know about the book, I bought this book, easily available through Amazon, and I was amazed that the day I ordered, second day it was with me, and I took 2 sittings to finish this book. It is so gripping and so engaging book, and especially for those who are from armed forces background, they can easily relate with the events and the details. But even for civilians, it is not very difficult to read and understand the details, even the technical details, the strategical details, the organizational details, which you have mentioned about CRPF and about Air Force, the hardware, the flying machines they have, the weapon systems. All this is very easy to understand. And coming from a naval veteran, it is entirely different thing. Uh, I want to share with the viewers that this book is not only very easy to buy, it is easy to read. And the very first chapter gives indication that what this book contains. And I recall the first opening scenario of this book, that a coffin reaches home in remote village, and people are crying, the widow is lamenting, and a small son is trying to open the coffin, and why this was not permitted. It is very heart shattering, but then these are the licenses authors must utilize fully, as much you have done, to shock and open the eyes of the readers, the hard realities armed forces face. Was it purely imaginary situation you created, or it was recreation laced with few facts? That opening scenario of your book.
Sir, uh, coming from a senior, a superior officer, this is obviously the question uh, that every armed person should relate to. In such a terrible blast, it is a hard fact that, and even during Pulwama also, it is well recorded that very few of the Jawans, the bodies of very few of the Jawans were intact. And there were empty coffins. It is a fact. It is a hard fact. And the only way to tell this hard fact, to make this hard fact reach out to my readers, was through this incident. This is the funeral, the last post are very real, but the incident that we are telling is obviously a fiction. There, see, the mother, the wailing mother, the wailing wife, and the son, younger son trying to open the coffin. There were requests. These are recorded facts that parents, children, wife, they tried to open the coffins, and some of them were told that you cannot open this because there weren't any bodies to show. Such dastardly was the terror attack. Such inhuman was the terror attack that very few, I think, on the record it was said that only a single body was found intact. That was of the driver Jaimal Singh. I've gone on record to say this. I've not changed the name, even though I've said that my book is a fiction, but I've not changed the name of the Martyrs CRPF Jawans to give them proper credit, due credit, to give the due credit to their bravery, to their restraint. So much of restraint that they have shown that despite of the erring driver's intentions were very hostile, they did not shoot him. This is the restraint that CRPF show in the valley, and while they face death and devastation.
Manan, in your chapter Early Convoy, you have used one sentence in respect to CRPF, and I wish CRPF officials read it and use it to explain their work condition. And you have written very profoundly about CRPF personnel, and I quote, "They are required to deal with good people on their worst days and bad people on their best." So clearly, even CRPF top leadership would not be able to define their role and work condition. They have been working in very challenging, very thankless condition, always, on the move, no life, no rest, and no recognition either. In worst of the situation they perform. You have done extensive study and research on CRPF. Do you see any other paramilitary forces working in similar condition here in India or elsewhere?
If
This
this is
question
my
may not be to your liking. You may not get into controversial situation, but then it is purely up to you to make comment here. My job is to initiate the thought.
No, you said it very clearly, sir. You mentioned it very clearly, but because this is my second writing or write up on a CRPF situation. Earlier, I wrote a piece on which is there on India Today on CRPF. So I have done enough research on CRPF. I have known them since long. I've known their operations since long, and looking at the scenario in the Naxal belt, looking at the scenario in the valley, as they are facing death and devastation on a daily basis, they are and the hatred. It cannot be recounted. It cannot be ignored that the stares that they face, the inherent the hatred for the armed forces that they face. So I personally believe that the CRPF, as you said, they are the best people in the worst situations. They are suited because of the restraint that they show, because of the peace that has to prevail in siphon areas, like if you say, be it a Naxalite belt or be it the valley. And they are the peacekeepers. They are there to maintain peace, but people, not so many people like them. Not so many people treat them with respect. We have seen numerous videos where their jeeps are attacked, their trucks are attacked. Even a CRPF Jawan driver told me that even if his truck or the service truck touches anybody's vehicle in the civil areas of Srinagar, they create a big ruckus out of it, and this driver has to pay. The service driver has to pay it's like paying a ransom. So they are facing the hostilities, and I think they are best placed to face this civil disturbances.
Again, Manan, I'm not forcing you to go to controversial area, but then about CRPF, I made a comment during a TV debate that CRPF top leadership is failing their men, and they don't lead from the front. Such a big convoy, had it been army convoy, there would have been minimum a major level officer. And in such big convoy, the gazetted officers were not leading the convoy. And their convoy discipline may be very, very efficient. They have been doing it. But then that leaves a leadership challenge here. That their SOP are good to read, but most of the time not practiced. You might have done research about what was the SOP, what was the order of convoy, and what should have been the leadership of such massive convoy. So, do you find again, there's no point discussing few things which are imaginary. I'm asking, based on fact, that if we do not learn from such experience, we will not improve. So discussion must end at indicating the solutions also or areas for improvement. So have you noticed such leadership requirement?
I definitely agree with you, sir. In my previous article on CRPF, I have written about the need for divisional system and need for leadership. There is I certainly there are some issues, and the convoy. If we focus on the convoy, let me tell you that, sir, the convoy was basically a logistics movement. The soldiers weren't armed. Only four of them were armed. The fifth one was the driver. Otherwise, out of the 39 men on board, 39 CRPF men on board, 34 of them were unarmed. So it was called a convoy movement. But in a convoy, you expect that your men are armed, so the convoy can defend themselves. The convoy can defend itself. The buses should have been armed buses, but there were very few buses which are armored. So there were issues with the convoy, and I sincerely hope that since then CRPF has been able to resolve it. There were questions and which were relevant, which were asked to the CRPF. There is an issue with the leadership. I hope that they are able to resolve it. They have to take a cue from the armed forces. I have written it time and again that the support system that the armed forces have, the leadership that in Kargil, numerous times I have seen, during my research also, and as you are part of the army, the armed forces officers always lead from the front. The JCOs lead from the front. You don't want your leaders to stay back, because when the leader is at front, he knows that he is at risk, and he takes certain decisions which are good for his man. But this has to happen. This has to happen earlier than later. And I sincerely wish, I don't wish to comment right now on the complexity of the exact convoy that was attacked. But I must say that there are some very good leadership examples from the armed forces over the years that has to be taken in, and CRPF must develop into a robust force.
Manan, in one of the chapter, when convoy is about to flag off, there is one occupant of the bus, unfortunate bus, who wants to sit with his friend, and he seeks permission of bus commander to change. Matter of providence, God has destined something to happen, and these are the manifestation of God's destiny already finalized. It has bit of fact, and again, authors, literary
Hard fact.
reference used
Still
here.
a hard fact.
but I read somewhere that it had happened exactly like this.
Yes,
So
sir. The
is it
name
a
is
fact
clear.
or a fiction?
Yes, the name is correct. It is a hard fact. I will say that not a single the CRPF convoy operation, the apart from certain liberties that a writer must take to make things understood, make things easy for the reader. If I write, I have written this as a purely from a as a point of view, from a military historian's point of view. I would have not taken a certain. There are very small liberties which are very ignorable, because when a convoy goes through, there are talks, there are discussions. So everything is a hard fact. In particular, the names of the men from convoy are real, and the incidents, they are real ones.
Uh, Before I start the second part of the book, for viewers, first, though exactly they are not so well defined parts of the book, but I take it one part of the book deals with the CRPF and Pulbama. Other part deals with Air Force and Balakot. So I move on to Air Force and Balakot. Yesterday, Air Force Day was celebrated with fanfare. I'm sure the air warriors must have remembered the good deeds done by Air Force. And in common citizen, the image of one air warrior must be very, very distinctly as permanently in their memory, part of their happy memory. That is about man with mustache, handlebar mustache. So, moving on to Balakot airstrike, I remember visuals of Wing Commander Abhinandan Vartman, that he is sipping tea. So there is a video that he is in captivity and drinking tea. And that visual I remembered, and then I read the book. And for the benefit of my viewers, I read that part. And it is very interesting part. Divya, who herself was an Air Force officer, and she retired by that time as wing commander. Sorry, squadron leader. So
Correct.
Divya is asking Abhinandan, pardon? Manan, you said
Yes, sir.
something?
No, sir. No,
Yeah.
sir. I'm listening.
So Divya is asking Vartman, Abhinandan, she is asking, बच्चों के बारे में जब पूछा था, तो she said that बच्चे अभी स्कूल से नहीं आए. And she further is asking, बच्चों को क्या बताऊं, पापा कहाँ गए हैं? And Abhinandan tell them पापा जेल में हैं. And Divya says, चाय कैसी थी? Abhi says, अच्छी थी. So Divya further asks, मुझसे भी अच्छी बनाई? Abhi says, yes, it was better. फिर दिव्या says फिर रेसिपी लेकर आना. तो जो डे टू डे लाइफ, the conversation husband wife have, same normal conversation is happening without making a special emphasis that one was very troubled, full of anxiety, and disturbed wife, mentally very emotionally charged, and other side the one who was undergoing torture and very severe investigation, and how casually they can still talk. This happens only with those who have worked in armed forces. Normal human being would not talk like this. And here also that element, husband wife, bit of jealousy, bit of leg pulling, कि चाय कैसी थी, and he says very blandly कि आपसे अच्छी थी. So this is again imagination. Again, the authors control and play with word and emotion comes here very distinctly. How do you get such kind of thought process, Manan?
Sir,
It
ma'am
is amazing.
actually received this phone call, sir. This is a real phone call. Ma'am actually received this phone call. Yes, sir. Mrs. Abhi actually received this phone call, and this is a real conversation that took place. This was actually discussed, and this conversation shows the indomitable spirit of an Indian soldier, the spirit of his family. It touched me a lot. It is very emotionally overwhelming being an Indian. That even in such as you said, that even in such dire situation, when woman knows that her husband is in enemy's hands, is a prisoner of war, and being an ex-officer, she knows it very well what it is to become a prisoner of war. He might not ever return. She might not ever be able to talk to him. She knows it very well. And even he also knows this, that this might be his last phone call. Abhi and his wife both have understood that this may be their last phone call. The next moment, the enemy might shoot him. You never know what will happen with you when somebody is somebody is a prisoner of war in enemy lands, and he is not there for nothing. He has already shot down enemy's jet, so he is their enemy. He is their national enemy. But the bravery that he shows is not imaginary. This is an Indian spirit, a spirit of an Indian wife, the spirit of an Indian officer, and it's a fact, sir. Don't you think so, sir?
Manan, again, I will take from your book only, and this is again another thing which shows how much research work you have done. You have talked about Air Force Squadron, and again, the kind of phrases, the kind of words, the technical jargon you have used, that shows how closely you studied Air Force work culture and the language, kind of language that is being used. And you mentioned here on page 111, all the squadron put their best foot forward and assigned their best stick and rudder hands for the mission. Best stick and rudder hand. Stick and rudder hand is a kind of technical jargon only Air Force people use, and you picked it up. So that shows the close interaction you might have had with Air Force personnel, and then you very vividly take readers through the entire process of mid-air refueling of aircrafts and how that process goes through, and that is again very amazing. I again read out something here, the page 152. At 0332 hours IST, as they edged closer to the objective, there was only one thing to do: roll in on their target. Suddenly, everything seemed to go quiet. Cobra and Viper flights rolled steadily upside down, popped speed brakes, pulled through the desired bomb line and target angle, levered wings, locked the target at the center, and set up a steady dive. 3500 feet, 3400 feet, achieving perfect parameters for their launch. This is, kind of a narration which might come from ATC or would come from pilot who has actually done that and now telling. So this also kind of description you might have picked up from Air Force officers.
Yes, sir. I researched a lot. I also picked it up from flying in service aircrafts and all. But I researched a lot. I read around 100, books on the Air Force, in particularly on the Indian Air Force, and I went. I was hungry like anything. It was like I've not eaten from for centuries to research on the sister service, and because I didn't want my sister service to be embarrassed कि ये यार नेवल वेटरन ने ये क्या लिख दिया. And sir, the biggest comment, the heartiest comment that I received was from an officer who just retired after the airstrikes, who retired 6 months after the airstrikes, and he was the principal planner. He was one of the principal planners uh, of the airstrike. He said that this is a great work. He said that there are certain things that I'll tell you when we'll meet, but this is a great work. This is what he said. When the principal planner of the Balakot airstrikes tells you that this is a great work, then it meant a world for me, and I realized that the effort that has gone into this book is worth it. And there was a reader who said that this book is rather a bit difficult for the service jargons that the author has used. But I wish to tell all our readers that this is serious military writing. This is not an entertainment or a book which is filled with double meaning dialogues and all. We have discussions in the book only when they were needed, and this flirts with the reality, the reality more often than not. So this is a proper service book, a proper service novel, a proper novel, a proper book about the an operation that has just gone by, and an operation that has made the entire nation proud, and an event that had made the entire nation cry. So when the things are laden so much with facts, hard facts, there are certain things which needed to accompany. There are certain service jargons which has to be used, which has to be told. Even if a simplistic reader doesn't understand a few jargons, he may go through the glossary, and he may use the Google, or he may go through the book again. But this is a very simplistic way, because being from the naval background, I have to understand the things in a very simplified manner, because even I was also not part of the Air Force. So I'm a reader myself. So this is my sincere attempt to make things as simple as I can, so that a simpleton like me can also understand.
Manan, in the meantime, there is one question which appears on the screen, and this comes from Colonel Pradeep Bajaj. Since I know him personally, that's why I am using the rank, otherwise name Pradeep Bajaj appears here. And his question is whether the process like road opening in hostile area was relevant in this case, if not some other method of securing the movement. And Manan, you can respond if you like, and if not, then I would like to respond after your reaction.
Bajaj sir's question is very relevant. So this was the first question that came to every officer, every armed force personnel, when such an hostile vehicle was allowed to enter, when when a large convoy, when a large paramilitary convoy was passing by. It wasn't something which is desirable, but political interventions during past 1 or 2 years ensured that there are quite a few roadblocks which were removed, and during movement of the convoy, this kind of vehicles were allowed. So it shouldn't have happened. I agree with sir, and that's it, sir.
Manan and Colonel Pradeep Bajaj, since I am from Army Service Corps. I know bit about convoys and route opening and closing. I have also seen and experienced in Mizoram and Assam and Bengal. Even in Andhra Pradesh, where PWG Maoist infested areas, route opening and closing uh, drill is slightly different in different organizations. In CRPF, it is different. In Army, it is different. The best route opening and closing and securing the moving convoy I have seen in Tripura State Rifle, TSR, and they do so marvelously and so effortlessly, it appears, but they do it so amazingly well and efficiently that all the dominant features are used by them for the protection of convoy and taking a strategic position and keep moving for the leapfrogging. That is something which is unique to TSR, and I have been telling my army friends, seniors and juniors, that you learn from TSR what to do about moving convoy. Back to this situation, there were two things after reading the book, the description which you made about the convoy, constitution of convoy, and how it was being organized and how it moved. And through other sources also, I know that authorities permitted crowding up to that extent that it became alarmingly very large and very challenging to manage. So such a large convoy was moving in single column without any strategic distance. If I was convoy commander, I would have moved the entire convoy in parts. And in between, I would have placed the firepower for security of convoy. Here it was, single file and convoy moving, very long serpentine movement, where entire convoy or single vehicle was vulnerable from flank attack, from aerial attack. There was hardly any place to take shelter, hardly any space for maneuver of the vehicles, and even turn around and go back. That was the kind of road and that was the kind of density of convoy which was very, very unfriendly and not very good for security of the convoy. That was the gap area I found. Anyway, Naman, we take you further, and before I go to next and probably last query to you, I would like to show one observation from Word 360 with Manu. And Dr. Manu is the host of this YouTube channel. They conduct weekly discussions on very important aspects. She is based in Ireland. So Dr. Manu Chaudhary is asking the question, and that question is, मनन सर, हमारे शहीदों और उनकी शहादत पर जब भी कोई लेखन किया जाता है, तब क्या पाठक के साथ साथ लेखक की भी आंखें भर आती हैं? अब ये सवाल इसलिए पूछ रही हैं कि ये खुद भी लेखक हैं, बड़े प्रतिष्ठित पत्रकार हैं और कवियत्री भी है। तो ऐसा सवाल एक कवि हृदय से आना भी चाहिए, तो आप जवाब देंगे इसका?
मनु जी, आपका सवाल बहुत वाजिब है और कैप्टन सर से भी, जैसे आपने इस डिस्कशन में भी देखा कि मुझे जब भी मैं पुलवामा की बात करता हूं तो मुझे वो चेहरे दिखने लगते हैं, उनके परिवारों की बातें और वो मैंगल्ड बस का जो रिमेन्स है वो याद आने लगता है। और व्हेन आई रॉट अबाउट द ब्लास्ट, उस इवेंट को जब मैंने लिखा उससे पहले मैंने उसे विजुअलाइज करके लिखा. सो व्हेन आई विजुअलाइज्ड इट आई कुडंट स्लीप फॉर 3 नाइट्स. मैं 3 रातों तक सो नहीं पाया. मैं बहुत डिप्रेशन में भी चला गया था जब मैंने पुलवामा ब्लास्ट को लिखा, क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा रिसर्च करके एक्चुअली इवेंट को एक्चुअल मिनट बाय मिनट उस ब्लास्ट में सेकंड बाय सेकंड क्या हुआ था उसको रिक्रिएट करने की कोशिश की. और ये आपकी बात से मैं बहुत एग्री करता हूँ कि जब इवन जब मैंने सर कारगिल लिखा तब भी मेरे साथ ऐसा ही हुआ था. मैं एज अ सोल्जर हम थोड़ा इमोशनल होते ही हैं, और एक सोल्जर राइटर सोल्जर ऑथर के लिए ये बहुत इमोशनल हो ही जाता है सर. और इमोशंस नहीं है तो शायद मैं आई एम नॉट अ प्रोफेशनल ऑथर, तो शायद मैं ये पुस्तक लिख भी नहीं पाता सर.
अच्छा, मैं ये सवाल और आगे इसी बात को आगे चलाता हूँ मैं. मनन, जब कोई हादसे का शिकार होता है, और हादसा तो आकस्मिक होता है, वो मेंटली तैयार नहीं है, हो जाता है, उसके बाद ट्रॉमा होता है, बाद में रियलाइजेशन होता है ऑल हैज हैपेंड, एंड people get over such traumas in due time. But as author, when you are writing about such traumatic event, you do research, you see the pictures, you see the videos, even the opening video which I displayed for our viewers, that takes you to higher level of anxiety and concern. But as author, when you go through, live, relive same traumatic moments, write it, read it again, proofreading, and then going through the discussion, you are reliving entire traumatic event. As an author, it is very emotionally draining, and it affects in long term, even the author. So Manu was asking same question which I am asking you, that has it affected you in some way, making you bit of disgusted, disturbed, or depressed? What these manifestation on you also?
सर मैंने जब पुलवामा ब्लास्ट को रिक्रिएट किया और लिखा, तो मैं सच बताऊंगा 2 हफ्ते तक इट टुक मी 2 वीक्स ऑफ रिसर्च, और मैंने 3 दिन में दिन रात जाग के इस काम को पूरा किया. I was very depressed, और वो those 2 weeks were also very depressing. I had quarrels at my home. I couldn't talk properly to my wife, my kids. I wasn't. I mean, while writing such an emotional event, I cannot remain away from it. The emotions, the happenings around that, and the plight of the families. At every moment, being a soldier, I was able to place myself in their situation, and I could see कि अगर ये होता है तो क्या पेन वाइफ को होगा, क्या बच्चों को होगा, क्या उनकी माता पिता को पेन होता है. और ये if this event, or in particular I'll say every terror attack or every incident that happens with a soldier, with an officer, can only be told sensitively by a person who is or was a soldier himself, because the sensitivity can never come professionally. As it is said that I am a veteran and I have inherited it. I have not inherited it, I have earned it. The badge of being a veteran, or the badge of being a soldier, is earned through one's sweat and blood, and through the years of service that we put on. So the sensitivity, the emotions, they will be there. If I would have been wouldn't have been a soldier, this sensitivity or these emotions couldn't have affected me, but they did, sir.
अभी मैं एक छोटा सा शॉर्ट क्लिप फिर से वो दिखा रहा हूँ, और उसके बाद में एक क्वेरी और है मेरी आपसे मनन, बिफोर वी क्लोज अप द डिस्कशन.
send a message to them that no matter where you are, whether you are in Pakistan occupied Kashmir or you are in Pakistan proper, we will get you.
So, Manan, my last query is that second part of your book focuses on Air Force, brave hearts, the exemplary tactics, flying capability, and using the inferior war machine against a very superior flying machine, because Bison was upgraded only and there was no match to Pakistani fighters planes. In this entire heroic operation, Abhinandan comes out being prisoner of war, comes out as hero. Civilian would relate easily. They were equally high performer, did exemplary high bravery and displayed their acumen, flying skills and all. Do you want to continue further and make another book, write another book, or sequel of this book?
Yes, sir, definitely. In an earlier talk, I said that the day is not far away, because we have learned that the enemies have shifted their assets, the terror assets in FPAC region. So the day is not far when India would require to strike the terror again, and we will again use the air force. Uh, but as I said, that there are certain there are certain limitations, being a Fauji writer, that we have to follow. There are certain things that must never be revealed. There are the braves who attacked Balakot. Uh, Service doesn't want their name to be relieved, so I had to do a lot of research on them. I had to recreate the entire sequence of Balakot attack, and I went through. I had to wait uh, for the day when they were awarded gallantry awards. Then through the gallantry award citations, I had to recreate the entire econ pilot कौन सा plane उड़ा रहा था. It was done like that. So there are certain things, there are certain names that people must not know, and every air warrior who was part of that operations or not, every soldier who was part of the surgical strike or not, every man a hero. Every man in uniform is a hero for me, because not everyone gets the chance. Destiny doesn't give chance to everyone, but professionally, Indian Army is very strong, and the enemies, the adversaries, though they know it very well, they try their best to bring down our morale. We have just seen today China release some photographs of our supposedly of men who were our men in their captivity. But India is restrained. India is not doing that. We have a tradition. Our military has a tradition. So when I write, I try to remain faithful to that, and I cannot. There are certain boundaries. There are some certain Lakshman rekhas that no Fauji writer should cross.
So, Manan, have you ever thought of meeting Abhinandan?
Sir, it is my dream to meet Avi sir, and I'll definitely. I'm trying to meet him, but
चलिए
there are
देखिए,
certain problems.
मैं कोशिश करता हूँ, मेरे कॉन्टेक्ट्स हैं तो एक मैं उनसे मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि एक मीटिंग हो और maybe that is kind of meeting which author must have with the character of the main character of the book he has written. So that way, as author, I think it is your literary right which is bestowed on all the authors to at least meet the main character. So let's hope that that comes through, and till such time, I look forward to your next book and wish you all the very best. Our viewers, you are also very welcome to join for this discussion, and we look forward for your continued patronage and association with us. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. This way, you will get advance notice of any forthcoming subject of your liking, so that you are already clued in. You get prior notice and see the discussion live. And Manan, there will be more time, many more opportunities to join with you and see that what can be done further. Till then, best of luck.